And inside you a hollow emptiness grows, like you've been forgotten by God. But listen closely, you are not being destroyed. You are being rebuilt. Maybe you can't even explain what you're feeling. Maybe you don't even have the strength to try. You just keep moving, because stopping would hurt even more. How many times have you felt like you're at your limit? Like invisible walls are closing in on you. Every step feels heavier than the last, and each day is a fight just to keep standing. You look at your life, and everything you've built seems to be crumbling. The job that felt secure is now uncertain. The health that seemed stable is now scary, and the person you trusted feels like a stranger. It may feel like punishment, but it's actually protection. It may look like loneliness, but it's refinement. God does not build great things on shaky foundations. Sometimes He has to take you apart from the inside so He can raise you back up the right way, His way. Do you realize what Jesus went through for 30 years? What you call a desert, God may be calling a foundation. You want to fly, but God wants you to grow roots first, because He knows the wind will blow. 30 years in silence, no miracles, no crowds, no spotlight, just the ordinary, the hidden, the unseen. And in that quiet place, God prepared the heart that would carry the weight of the cross. In the silence, in the dark, in the unseen, God is forming in you the strength you'll need to stand in the places He has already prepared for you. Do you remember the phoenix, that mythical bird that rises from the ashes? That's what God often does with us. He lets everything turn to dust to show that even from dust He can bring new life. And if your roots aren't deep enough, you'll fall. This silence is painful, but it also heals. It pulls out the shallow things, crushes pride, breaks haste, and teaches what no success ever could. Dependence. Maybe today is that moment for you, the moment where everything feels lost, but God hasn't forgotten you. He's using this time to strengthen you from within. And yet even in that broken place, He said, "The Lord gave and the Lord took away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." And after the dust of his pain settled, God restored Job's life double. You are not stuck. You are being prepared. The pause is not the end. It's just the space before something far greater begins. And even if no one else sees the process, God does. This isn't poetry. This is truth. This is what He did with Job. A man who lost everything, his wealth, his children, his health, and his dignity. He sat in the ashes and wanted to die. Do this for 7 days, just 7, and you'll begin to sense something shifting. Things outside may look the same, but something deep within will begin to align. If He hasn't brought you out of this season yet, it's because this season is still teaching you something vital for your future. It's happened to you before, hasn't it? So why doubt now? The same God who held you up yesterday is still holding you today. Want a practical step? Pick a time each day, morning, noon, or night, and set aside 5 minutes in silence just to sit in God's presence. Not to ask, not to complain, just to be, and in that moment say, "God, I'm here, teach me in the silence." 27 years of loneliness, silence, and being forgotten. But it was there in that hidden silence that he was shaped, prepared, and empowered. And you're about to give up before the page even turns? If there's one thing you can do today, let it be this: breathe. Don't chase perfection. Now ask yourself, what might God be building in you during this hidden time? What if you're on the edge of the greatest chapter of your life? Because in the silence, God speaks in ways only the heart can understand. Still not convinced? Think of Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison. And when he walked out, he didn't come out with hate, but with leadership, vision, and faith, and he changed an entire nation. Don't try to understand it all right now, just keep going. One more day, one more step, one more surrender, because the God who works in the unseen is closer than you think. You are not the mistake you made, or the failure others won't let you forget. You are not your father's absence, your mother's rejection, or your friend's betrayal. You're not the bad grade, the small paycheck, or the empty resume. All of those things may have happened to you, but they are not who you are. You are not what people said about you. You are not the words that wounded you, the labels placed on you, or the stares that made you feel small. And one day, he will show you the purpose behind every tear, every silence, and every new beginning. You were chosen before you were even born. You are his masterpiece, created on purpose, designed with intention. Do you really think a God that big would create you by mistake? And those words took root. Without realizing it, you started to believe them. And the cruelest part? When you believe a lie long enough, it starts to feel like truth. But listen to me now with all my heart. You are not what they did to you. You are who God says you are. And do you know what he says? He says you are his child. You are loved. Maybe you've spent your whole life being compared to your sibling, to the star student, to someone who made it while you were seen as the problem. Maybe you grew up hearing you were too slow, too awkward, that you'd never amount to anything. Maybe you carried unrealistic expectations and felt like a burden when you couldn't meet them. There's a moment in the Bible that always moves me deeply, when the prophet Samuel goes to Jesse's house to anoint the new king of Israel. All of Jesse's sons are called, except one, David, the youngest, the forgotten one, just the little shepherd boy. Not even his father believed he could be the chosen one. Do you think he would give up his son for someone who had no value? No, he wouldn't. But he did, for you. And that says everything. But God saw what no one else did. While people looked at appearance, resume, and status, God looked at the heart. And it was in the one everyone ignored that he poured out the anointing of a king. My past does not define my future. Say it, even if it feels strange at first, even if it sounds like a lie. Say it until that truth becomes louder than any old lie still echoing inside you. Enough, it has to stop now. So here's a challenge. For the next 7 days, every morning when you wake up, stand in front of a mirror, look yourself in the eyes and say out loud, I am God's masterpiece. I am loved. I am forgiven. I am strong. I am needed. Do you understand? Maybe everyone else overlooked you, but God never forgot you. Your worth does not come from others' opinions. It comes from the blood that was shed for you. Think about this for a moment. How many times have you held yourself back because of what others said? How many chances did you let slip away believing you weren't good enough? How many dreams have you buried because someone told you they were impossible? You know why this works? Because words have power. The Bible says faith comes by hearing, and that includes hearing yourself remind your soul who you are in God. Maybe you're still wrestling with a label someone gave you as a child. Maybe they called you lazy, dumb, or worthless. Or maybe you're carrying the weight of guilt from a mistake that convinced you you're stained forever. At school, he was seen as weird. Many said he would never succeed, but he believed in the vision he had of himself. He wrote a symbolic check to himself for $10 million and dated it in the future. And then, full of grace, he added, "Go and sin no more." He didn't ignore her sin, but he didn't reduce her to it either. That's how he looks at you. He knows all you've done, thought, and where you've been. Years later, he received that exact amount for a film. Not because he was perfect, but because he refused to accept the limits others tried to place on him. You don't need applause. You don't need approval. And still, he calls you by name. And not just any name, it's the name of a child. Want an example of overcoming? Think of actor Jim Carrey. He grew up in extreme poverty, even lived in a van with his family. But God doesn't work with condemnation. He works with restoration. The adulterous woman, caught in the act and about to be stoned, was looked at by Jesus, who said, "I do not condemn you." While others focus on what you lack, God sees what he placed inside you, because he never makes mistakes in creation, and he didn't make one with you. You need belief. Belief that there's something inside of you the world hasn't seen yet, and that's okay. They don't need to see it now, because the one who needs to see it, God, already has. And if today you don't know where to start, begin like this. Close your eyes and say, "Father, show me who I am in your eyes." That's it. He will show you. Because whoever seeks their identity in the Father will never again live like an orphan. You are not a mistake. You are a plan. You are a promise. You are someone heaven itself moved for. The time for comparison is over. The time for hiding behind wounds is over. Now is the time to reclaim your identity. Time to see yourself the way God sees you. Have you ever thought that what feels unfair or too heavy right now could be the very thing that turns you into a living answer for someone else's suffering? What's making you cry today might become the bridge that leads another to God. And this isn't just poetic talk. It's the reality of heaven, where pain is transformed into testimony. Look at the story of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, sold as a slave, humiliated, imprisoned unfairly. He lost everything: home, family, freedom, honor, everything. But let me tell you a truth that can flip your world. The pain you're feeling today might be exactly what saves someone else tomorrow. There are days when the pain hits so hard that you whisper, "Why, God, why me?" And sometimes that question doesn't come from anger, but from weariness, a soul-deep exhaustion. A kind of tired that comes after you've tried everything. You've prayed, you've cried, you've waited, and still nothing seems to change. And in the silence, a thought rises. Maybe I should just give up. And do you know what Joseph said to his brothers who betrayed him? "You meant to harm me, but God turned it for good, so that many lives would be saved." How many abandoned everything halfway through the process and spent their whole lives wondering what might have happened if they had just held on a little longer? Even when everything seemed lost, he held on to his faith, and when it looked like the end, God raised him up as the ruler of Egypt and used his pain to save an entire nation from famine. Can you see it? The pain you're carrying is not just about you. It holds a greater purpose. It has the power to transform other lives, but only if you keep going. You need to cross through it, because only those who don't give up make it through. How many people do you know who quit before seeing the purpose behind their suffering? Maybe you're one step away from living the promise God wrote for you, but you're thinking about turning back just because the season is hard. But think with me, what if Jesus had quit in Gethsemane, when he sweated blood and said, "Father, if possible, let this cup pass from me"? What if he had stopped there? And because he endured, you have access to salvation. There are people who will be reached by God through your story, people who will believe in new beginnings because they saw you rise. What if he had said, "I can't take this"? Can you imagine what would have happened to all of humanity if Jesus had given in to the pain? But he didn't. He endured. Have you heard of J.K. Rowling? Before Harry Potter, she was a single mother, unemployed, battling deep depression, living on government aid and rejected by many publishers. And it's in that process where God turns pain into healing, chaos into testimony, and tears into tools for his glory. And here's a hard but freeing truth. Not every miracle happens in a flash. Some miracles are born in the process. But in order for that to happen, you have to go through the pain. Not avoid it, not fake strength, but walk through it with God. How many times have you hidden your pain, pretending you're okay, because you thought no one would understand? But God understands. And more than that, he wants to use your pain. He wants to turn your darkness into light, because those who make it through the valley become guides for others still lost in the storm. So if you're at your lowest, crying out for help, feeling unheard, know that God has already heard you. And he's not just coming to pull you out. He wants to work through you. He wants to use your story, your pain, your healing to reach others. Because when you rise, you don't rise just for yourself. You rise for everyone coming after you. And yet she kept writing. She kept believing. She used her pain as fuel. And now millions are inspired by her, not just by the books, but by her strength in the middle of struggle. Instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What for? What is this pain for? Who is this story going to help? Who will be healed, freed, restored by hearing what you've walked through?" Do this. Think of someone you deeply admire. Now ask yourself, did they get there without pain, without struggle, without falling down? What inspires you about them is what they survived. And the same will be true for you. You've already overcome things you thought would be your end. You've risen when everyone said you couldn't. And yet doubt comes again. The urge to quit returns. But this time, do it differently. Maybe right now it doesn't make sense because you're still in the middle of the process. But when the end comes, you'll see that none of it was wasted. That's when you'll understand that every tear, every fall, every sleepless night served a purpose far greater than you imagined. He's writing a testimony through your struggle that will touch lives. And when someone tells you, I was about to quit, but your story gave me hope, it'll all make sense. One day you'll look back with tears in your eyes and say, it was worth it. Every bit of it mattered. So breathe deep. Hold on just a little longer. Walk forward even if your knees are bleeding, because God never wastes your pain. You've overcome before. You've faced dark nights, days when everything felt like it was falling apart, and you're still standing here today. But when pain returns, when plans don't go your way, it's easy to forget what you've already survived and endured. You're breathing, you're alive. That alone is proof you are stronger than you think. But let me remind you, the same God who held you through the past storms is still with you now. He hasn't changed. And in that forgetfulness, the enemy creeps in and whispers that this time you won't make it, that now you're too weak. That wasn't chance, that was grace, that was purpose. And as long as God is with you, the end is never really the end. It's just a beginning disguised as despair. If He lifted you once, He will do it again. Maybe you're facing marriage struggles, silent depression, or financial battles stealing your sleep. Maybe you're grieving someone you deeply loved. Maybe your pain has no name, but it clings to you like a shadow. Because God is a master at rebuilding broken lives right at the place where they once fell apart. In the Bible, Peter denied Jesus 3 times. And inside you, a voice screams, I can't take this anymore. But look back, remember when you said that before, and you made it through? Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And He wasn't just anyone, He was the close friend, the disciple who swore loyalty till the end, yet still denied Him in His darkest hour. Next to it, write down how you made it through, what you learned, and what God revealed to you after it was over. Keep that paper safe, and whenever doubt creeps back in, read it out loud. It will remind you that you've overcome before, and you will again. He understands your silence when you have no words left, and He gathers your tears like silent prayers spoken straight from your soul. God doesn't measure the strength of your faith by how eloquent your words are, but by how genuine your heart is when you turn to Him. If the only thing you can do today is breathe, then breathe. If all you can manage is a whispered prayer, then whisper. You're allowed to feel fear, but you are not allowed to walk away from the purpose God placed on your life. Today might feel like the end, but it's just another page, and the author of your life story is still writing. There are people who will be touched by your story. They're waiting for the day you say with confidence, I made it. You're still here, still breathing, still listening to this message. That's not coincidence, it's divine purpose. What God has planned isn't finished yet. If victory hasn't arrived, it's because He's still working on something bigger than you imagine. So don't close the book, don't drop the pen, don't stop the narrative. There are still beautiful chapters ahead. You've already won before, and you'll win again, because those who sail with God may face storms, but they never sink. Even when you doubt yourself, deep down there's a tiny, living spark of faith, and that's exactly where God will move. You didn't come this far just to quit. You're here because you're strong enough to keep going, even when everything says you can't. You are not alone. You never were. In the darkest nights, in the quietest tears, in muffled cries, He was always there.